Hello, Hatters. My name is Chris Rolks, and I serve as president of Stetson University. I'm also professor of education and American studies. And I'm delighted to welcome you today to our Rolks Report Live. I want to thank you very much for joining us. We have some important information to share with you. And I'm delighted to have Hatter Nation with us here today. We have a number of guests, which I'll introduce in just a moment. But we have an hour together, and I encourage you to ask any questions that you may wish in the chat. We will try to get to as many answers as possible. If we're not able to, we will be certain to get back to you with all deliberate speed. We do want to keep you informed as we make plans for your arrival and return to campus. And truth be told, we cannot wait for your return to campus. We do have a lot of ground to cover this evening, and I do appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join us. We are all acutely aware of the issues and circumstances we face for the fall. There's a lot of uncertainty, for example, over the Delta variant and the speed with which it is spreading. We have asked, as you know, to voluntarily report your vaccination to the university through the web form that we have provided. It is in fact anonymous, and the information is aggregated and tracked and is very, very helpful to all of us in the surrounding community from a public health perspective. So certainly encourage you to please get your vaccination information in if you haven't done so already. As of 4 o'clock yesterday, our data were updated with regard to vaccination rates. Overall, we have verified vaccination rate of 44%, with those that are employed at Stetson at 62%, and students at 39%. This information is for both campuses, and this information is available and updated daily to the Safer Stetson website's tracking dashboard. Let me also say that I'm cautiously optimistic that our vaccination rates are actually higher because not everyone has yet had the opportunity to upload their information on vaccination. I do want to thank everyone sincerely who has voluntarily reported their status. These numbers are strong, but we need to do better, and I know that we can. We continue to offer weekly drawings of $1,000 grants and free parking. That should be an incentive, free parking for the fall 2021 to undergraduate and graduate students. Our Vice President of Enrollment, Ray Nault, will join us later to bring us up to date on our winners and our July 30th drawing. We believe, and certainly I believe, that as a university dedicated to learning and to knowledge, we must take full advantage of what we know about how to control and manage community safety. Science has taught us a lot, and it is incumbent upon all of us to learn it. We know the vaccines have proven extremely effective in bringing down the infection rates. It is by far the best means we have of providing a safe and healthy environment for the entire Stetson University community. And as you will hear this evening, the vaccines and reporting your vaccination are the best means toward returning to normal campus activity without restriction. With the exception of those with medical or religious exemptions, I do expect all members of this community to get vaccinated. I certainly can't make it a requirement, but this is in fact my expectation. We all have to take responsibility and to do this together. When I started here just a little bit over a year ago, I emphasized the importance of kindness in all that we do. Let me just say that getting vaccinated and reporting it is a kindness we can give to our community and to each other. Thank you for indulging me in a few opening remarks. And it's now my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Joseph Smith, who has very generously given us his time and his expertise over the last 18 months. And we were just talking a little bit before this webinar, and I really want to extend on behalf of the entire Stetson University community my sincere appreciation to Dr. Smith for all that he has done for us. This is not part of his job description. He is exceptionally busy, particularly now with the Delta variant wreaking some havoc in our community. So Dr. Smith, thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise.
Thank you for having me, President Rolks. And I will extend that big virtual hug right back to you and say I've been continually impressed with Stetson and your response to this pandemic. At every step, Stetson has been very thoughtful, very circumspect, tried to balance the risks and the benefits of every move. And I think that you've done an exemplary job keeping students and their families at the center of all of that. So my hat is off to you and to the administration there as well. It's been a real pleasure. In fact, I wish more organizations would do what you're doing now, which is try to provide that forum for some information to get out there. If I sound a little raspy, guys, I've been here since 7 a.m., so I may be I may have a little bit of that radio voice going, but that's okay. I'll just jump right into kind of what we're seeing, and obviously you're free to put some questions in. But if you've been under a rock for the last week, 10 days, we are seeing a surge in COVID cases. This was a little bit unexpected. I was among the physicians who believed that we had really kind of gotten beyond maybe the worst of this pandemic and we were moving into normal, whatever new normal territory is. But there was a wrinkle that most of us didn't foresee, and that was the emergence of this Delta variant. Okay, the Delta variant is something that you've probably started to see used in the news, and you're probably asking each other about it. What does that mean? The Delta variant is, as all viruses tend to mutate, a mutation of that original strain that emerged out of Wuhan, China in 2019 and made its way around the globe, with which we're all so familiar. This has mutated a little bit, and how it mutated is particularly interesting from the scientific standpoint, and it's particularly bad for people who are unvaccinated and are at risk of catching this. And so there's been a little bit of an alteration in the protein on the outside of this virus. Remember, it's an RNA virus with a fairly thin protein coat. That protein spike has changed a little bit, and it makes it a little bit easier to catch, okay? So this is a virus that spreads more easily than that initial strain that we all saw and began to learn about. That's not that atypical. Viruses are, they're not intelligent, sentient life forms, but they do have a design that lends itself to, they want to spread. And so viruses will often mutate in such a way that they're more easily spread. This one, though, has done something that most viruses don't do, and that is it has mutated in such a way that it makes you sicker. How does that happen? There's a protein, or sorry, excuse me, a receptor in your body called ACE2 receptor. And you have that throughout your body in what's called epithelial cells, which line your lungs in particular. This ACE2 receptor is what this virus is going to bind to now with a much greater affinity, part of that being easier to catch. But it also blocks your body's ability to degrade some products that are actually injurious to the lungs, okay? So this thing is now setting up shop. It's a little bit easier for you to get it, and once it's there, it's doing more damage. What does that really the census just at Advent Health Daytona Beach, where I am, we had gotten down to maybe 5% of the house were suffering from this virus. We are now up around somewhere like 15 to 20% of the patients here in the hospital have this virus. What really scares me is that I'm starting to see an influx of people, I'd like to say my age and your age. The truth is I'm twice your age, at least, but we're seeing an influx of people that are young, previously healthy, unvaccinated adults, so that 18 to 45 range, who are coming in absolutely getting flattened by this virus. In fact, if you start to look at my patients in the ICU and on the heart-lung bypass machine that we call ECMO, those patients are almost exclusively in that category. This is a little bit different animal than what we initially saw, and so it's crucial, guys, that you go out and get yourselves vaccinated. 39% is not going to cut it. So if you are in that group of people that is not yet vaccinated, let me tell you, this is not the original strain that you saw that affected primarily octogenarians and septuagenarians. Okay, this is a different strain, and it actually uses your body's immune system against you. Okay, being young and healthy, you're going to mount a large, what we call cytokine response to this thing, an inflammatory response, and that's actually part of what makes you sick. So being young and healthy is not necessarily a protective factor. I've gotten some questions that I'll try to kind of take them one at a time. And obviously, again, there's the chat, but some of the questions are around, does the vaccine still protect you from this Delta variant? Yes, it does. The vaccine, as you all know, is an mRNA vaccine, and it trains your body to recognize a protein on the outside of the virus, and that is absolutely still the same. The parts of the virus that have changed are not that protein, and so your body still can recognize the virus, whether it's the Delta variant or the original strain, and the vaccine confers some immunity. Good question that I've gotten is it true, Dr. Smith, that you're starting to see patients who had been vaccinated come to the hospital sick with COVID-19? Unfortunately, yes. Okay, and I have seen that with all three vaccine products that are currently available. So that's the Moderna, the Pfizer, and the Janssen product. Some important information about that. Those patients are not ending up in the ICU, which is good, which goes along with what we initially said and initially hypothesized, is that even if the vaccine didn't confer 100% immunity, it would confer at least partial immunity, and we are seeing that. Those patients who have been vaccinated, who are hospitalized, by and large, not going to the ICU. Also, almost to the individual, they are people who have an underlying immunocompromised state. So somebody, for instance, with a disease like lupus or rheumatoid arthritis, who takes medication that actually modulates their immune system down, those are the patients that we're seeing that are getting this. Hands down, the best thing you could do to keep yourself from getting this virus is get the vaccine. Doesn't matter which one. All three are extremely safe, extremely effective. All three are all but identical when it comes to what you actually get out of them. So my advice to you is find one that's available and get the shot. I've gotten some questions about some sort of, for lack of a better term, almost internet rumor mill stuff, because they seem to be rooted in Facebook and Twitter and not really on the science. I've gotten some questions about fertility. Is it true that there's been some concern about fertility or future fertility linked to this vaccine? No, that's nowhere in the literature at all. In fact, when you look at the initial study that had 47,000 patients in it, several of those people being studied got pregnant just as a matter of course, right? It didn't have anything to do with the study, but they noted it. So if anything, the literature that we have suggests that this vaccine has absolutely no impact on your fertility or your future fertility. Other questions I've gotten are around the severity of the reaction that people have. Those are fair questions. It's pretty variable, and we cannot really reliably predict who's going to have a reaction to this vaccine. I will tell you that of all the things that you put into your body, right, and that includes over-the-counter medication, this would still stack up as one of the safest. The reactions that we've seen have been mild. Generally speaking, they're worse on the second shot, and we see things like a sore arm is the most common, very similar to when you have, say, a tetanus shot. Some people feel a little feverish, and a few people have actually run temperatures for less than 24 hours or so, but really, in the scheme of things, absolutely no comparison to what it's like to have COVID-19, which I had, and I can tell you I would take the shot any day of the week to not go back through that. Some other questions I've gotten around vaccination is, how do we know how long the vaccine's going to last? That's a great question. We don't know how long it's going to last. I can tell you that we've got 7 months of data now showing that it's still very effective out this far, and we have every reason to believe it's going to continue to be effective for a year plus. So again, there's no reason to sort of wait and see. That's certainly something that we could all handle. A couple of more things, and don't feel bad. I'm not picking on you guys because I've had to have this talk with some doctors. A lot of physicians and healthcare workers, just in general, we used to think it was pretty cool to go to work sick. It was like a badge of honor. I'm not going to let my team down. I'm going to go to work sick. If you're not feeling well, you got to stay home. Stay in your room. Stay with your housemates, your dorm mates, whoever it is. Stay put. Let your teachers know, but do not go out and spread this thing around on the assumption that those around you aren't going to get sick. Delta variant, we're seeing young people get sick. And even if you don't get sick, you could still pass this on to somebody who does, right? So I think, this idea that, well, I'm really just accepting risk for myself doesn't really bear out. If by not getting vaccinated, we're putting other people at risk, not exactly probably the move you want to make. If by going out when you don't feel well, not wearing your mask, you're putting other people at risk, again, probably not really where you're thinking about it, but when we frame it that way, then I think it becomes a little bit easier to kind of take those restrictions to heart. If I were asked, and I have been, to get my crystal ball out and say, where are we going? I do think that unfortunately we're probably moving towards seeing something that looks a little more like 2020 than the rollback on some of those restrictions that we've seen just in the last couple of months. Delta variant has really changed the game. We also have a gamma variant that is emerging now that is also quite serious. There's a Delta plus variant out there. So as this virus continues to mutate, it does change the game a little bit for us. So again, if we want to get back to that normal life, what am I going to say? Get vaccinated, right? Wear your mask, wash your hands, stay home when you're feeling sick, and give people a little bit of space when and where you can. I can answer any questions you guys ask, but that's kind of the public service announcement version.
Dr. Smith, very important information, and I so appreciate you saying it so clearly in such an understandable way. Really, really appreciate it. It's now my pleasure to bring onto the screen our co-vice presidents for class, Lynn Schoenberg and Larry Correll Hughes, who have both generously stepped up to serve in those capacities. Lynn will be talking a little bit more about our tier system and an overview of our exciting goals around the 70% vaccination rate. And also Larry will come on in a few moments to discuss fall campus life, the return to as vibrant a campus as possible. And we'll also handle questions related to move-in. So Lynn, thank you for joining us here today, and also for you and for Terry Wadwin's leadership of Safer Stetson over the last 18 months to 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, President Rolke. And just another thank you to Dr. Joe Smith. That's actually the best version of an explanation of how the Delta variant particularly impacts younger people that I've heard. I hope we can find a way to have everyone in our community hear his words that he just shared with us. And so I do want to talk a little bit about our current tier 4 status and our hope to move into a 70% vaccination rate as a community. We feel really good about our tier 4 guidelines. They seem to be working very well. We did know that we needed to create a tier 4. Sometime in the middle of the spring, we realized that it would be necessary because when we originally created the tier system, we didn't see a world where we would have such a mixed vaccination campus. That's what the CDC and the American College Health Association call us right now. We're a mixed vaccinated campus in that we still have a large percentage of our population that is not vaccinated, but we also have a sizable population that is. And so tier 4 allows us to keep some of the really important mitigants in place that we know have been successful for us. Things that, again, the CDC and ACHA say we should still have in place, while also allowing some more freedoms back into our community. And so when I talk about CDC and ACHA, I want to highlight that those are recommendations specific to higher education institutions. So while some of the guidance has been even more lenient for the general population, those groups have set specific criteria for colleges and universities because of our shared living environment, because of how many people are combined, right, in classrooms and in events. And we are trying very hard to follow those guidelines specific to mixed populations. And you can see here on the screen our current numbers right now for DeLand, really highlighting those overall numbers for all of DeLand and also for our employees and for our students. And you can see the 70 bar where we really, really want to get to. That's what we want to hit. And we did set that 70% number again in consultation with the organizations I mentioned, as well as our Department of Health. here in Volusia County and over in Hillsborough and Pinellas for our College of Law. So we've got a lot of questions about our Tier 4 and our 70% in comparison to some other institutions out there. And I just wanted to answer those questions off the bat. These are things that you all submitted before we started talking. And as President Rolke mentioned, we cannot mandate the vaccine at Stetson. We cannot mandate in the state of Florida. We can, though, put mitigants in place that can help to keep folks safe until we hit a number of vaccinated people on campus that feels more comfortable, especially knowing everything that Dr. Smith just shared with us. So you will see schools in other states having different policies and procedures because vaccines are mandated there. You will see the private institutions in Florida having a very wide range of policies, of which we are really right in the middle of all of those procedures. And then you'll see the public institutions in Florida having very different guidelines than the private institutions, and that's because those are set through the state. So I wanted to take a moment to explain there, and then really highlight some of the amazing wins that we get as a community if we can hit that 70% goal. The things that we keep hearing from all of you that you really want back, you want to see it happen. And so this is just a sprinkling of the things that happen at 70%, but facial coverings would not be required inside. Right now they are required indoors, unless you're in a group with 4 or less people who all agree not to wear a facial covering. We would remove restrictions on groups and gatherings in terms of size. We would also remove restrictions on athletic events, how much capacity we can have for spectators and students and visitors, community members to be at games. We would remove restrictions to recruitment and bid day for Greek life. And then for residential students, we would go back to pre-COVID guest policy in the halls. Each of those things just sounds so amazing. And can see how they would really help improve the vibrancy of our campus. And we're really hopeful that we can get there. So a strong message not to wait, get vaccinated now so that you can be in that considered fully vaccinated population. That's 14 days after your last dose, depending on which vaccine you get. And report it to us. Let us know so that, one, you can qualify for the great things that Ray is going to talk about, and also so we know where we are as a community and what we can do moving forward. Highlighting the benefit of that is to your own health, it's to the community's health, and there's also some really great wins for you. You don't have to get tested at gateway testing, and you don't have to quarantine if you have a direct exposure. We just saw that play out on campus yesterday. Vaccinated students did not have to quarantine, even though they definitely had a direct exposure. And luckily they're feeling great. So gateway testing, just a really quick update. We'll have full information out about gateway testing next week, including the ability to sign up for your appointment slot. Some of our student leaders already got that email today and are able to start signing up for their appointments because they have to come early to campus, early arrivals, athletics, and some student leaders. Please know that everyone, all of our students, undergrad, graduate, residential, commuter, will go through our clearance process. So you can get one of those bracelets that we had last year that shows that you're clear. But if we have your vaccination record, you don't also have to get tested, which is really nice. So I do also want to quickly mention that we already do require a number of vaccinations here at Stetson, which is actually in line with the state of Florida's requirements for vaccination. So we require MMI, we require for residential students, meningitis. And so the expectation of vaccination is one that our community has had for years and years to keep us safe. And we've actually had incidences where we had infectious disease that could be very concerning, on campus in the past, and we firmly believe that our strong immunization policy helped keep the larger campus protected there. So we have a history of that really working out for us. So happy to answer more questions later, but I definitely want to pass it over to my great colleague, Larry Correll-Hughes, to talk about some of the excitement for the fall semester. We miss you, and we want you to come back, and we're excited about that. Larry.
Thanks, Lynn. Absolutely, we miss you, and we are really excited about what life is going to look like in the fall. Getting closer to the vibrancy that Stetson campus is known for, and that we've missed so dearly during the COVID so far. When we ended the fall semester, we ended in Tier 2. We're now in Tier 4, and so that looks allows things to look a lot different. Regarding mask out, not requiring mask outside, and so there's all sorts of implications for that. And so focus is beginning on August 13th. We're going to be welcoming our new class, hopefully many of you, and reintroducing many of the face-to-face activities that have been part of the Stetson experience in that orientation in FSIMS. And so those classes are in person. So just a reminder, FSIMS are such a phenomenal part of the Stetson experience, the onboarding to really understand how to be a successful student and get to know a faculty member closely in a really unique academic classroom environment. We will have a virtual involvement fair. And so I know you're thinking, wait, so August 4th, we're going to have a virtual involvement fair so people can go ahead and start thinking about what they want to engage in. And so if you are a continuing student, you're a sophomore, junior, or even a senior, and you're like, ooh, I want to learn what's out there, you don't have to wait until our full involvement fair at the beginning of September, which will be live and in person. August 4th will be a time where you can connect with some student organizations and get involved and get a head start on that. Also during orientation, a lot of our student programming boards, so Hatter Productions, Fraternity and Sorority Involvement, Hatterthon will all be doing live events for orientation. There will be, like I said, a face-to-face involvement fair. Fraternity and sorority recruitment is live and in person. There will be some, Tier 4 COVID restrictions about masking and indoors, but a very traditional fraternity and sorority recruitment experience. And so if that's something you're interested in, I urge you to check it out. And that is a great way to get involved and find your people here at Stetson. Our annual Welcome Back Bash, which is planned by Student Government Association, planning is underway, and so you'll be seeing more and more come about that. Really want to encourage you to use the Engage portal, and so that's the home for all of our student organizations, and you can see events that are already on the books and things that are coming, learn more about all those organizations, and really look through Instagram. All of our student organizations are really promoting events through Instagram over the last year and a half, 2 years has become, those are the two ways to know what's happening, through Engage and following through Instagram. We're really excited. I think Lynn had to hold herself back from being able to announce this. We've put some pictures out on Facebook. There was a renovation occurred in the Hollis Center. And so what was the Hollis Center Lounge is now expanded workout space. And so lots of new equipment, treadmills, ellipticals, steppers, a jungle gym. And so we want to just a shout out to Student Government Association, which helped fund that renovation, which has been long planned. And so we're excited to see that expanded space. You won't need a reservation to work out in the Hollis Center. So you'll be able to go during hours when you need to swim in the pool, work out, attend classes, workout classes there. Also, intramurals back in force this fall with a brand new intramural sport, RC car racing. And so we supply the RC cars, and you'll be able to race RC cars through an indoor course in the Rinker Field House. So Intramurals is always innovative, and they're not letting us down this year with a new RC car sport. Additionally, What Radio and How to Network are great ways to get involved and know what's going on here at Stetson. And want to just do a shout out to Royce Newman. The What's Up podcast is led by a well team member. And so that podcast will be back, and it provides wellness education from our peer students to one another. So previous topics have included everything from health disparities with sex and gender, the healthcare system, chronic disease, and much, much more. And so just check out the Well Team Instagram for more on that. You Lead. I want to remind y'all that You Lead, the letter U, Lead, is a great place to find out, to look at leadership opportunities. So some of those are paid leadership positions, and some of them are volunteer and also just educational opportunities. We are in the planning stages for Friends and Family Weekend. So look out for that. So we're excited to have parents on campus visiting in safe ways during the fall, during Parent and Family Weekend. I just want to wrap up by saying that one of the things that Student Development Campus Vibrancy is doing in the Carlton Union building, that's a student union. And so that is your home, your living room on campus, whether you're a commuter or a residential student. And so one of the things that we think about is rhythms of life on campus. And so those are recurring events that happen every week or every other week. And so Uncouth Hour will be continuing in Lee's Garage on Thursday nights at 9 o'clock. So that's an open mic time for those of you who haven't previously been with us during a fall semester. But Uncouth Hour is an open mic that is a really amazing cross-section of our campus. There's going to be a sophomore scoop on the green, Hatter X speaker series, Friday night cinemas, homecoming, and so much more. We're really excited about our athletic events being open for spectators, and so attending some football games and volleyball games and lacrosse and all the other sports, soccer. And so last but not least, the residence halls, shared bedrooms. So that means roommates. And so roommates are instant connections and instant friends, and the ability to, chat with people around the hall and to have those chance encounters, which are such a part of the Stetson experience. Those will all be live and in person. And we're so excited to see how those unintentional random chance conversations, as well as intentional conversations with the RAs, transform that experience back more fully into the Stetson experience we know. So that was just a quick look at what we see for the fall. Want to remind you to make sure you bring your hammock, because the palm trees are always calling you to stretch a hammock and hang out on the Palm Quad and around campus. So, President Rolke.
Larry, thank you so very much. And I know this is a very simple equation, but as I was listening to you speak and to Lynn speak, is it safe to say that a fair equation would be increased vaccination equals increased campus vibrancy?
100%. 100%.
Thank you. Yep. Let me repeat that equation. Increased vaccination equals increased campus vibrancy. Thank you very much. Lynn Schoenberg was going to chime in with a little bit more information related to a previous conversation.
Yes, so there was something that I had planned to talk about and didn't, and then it was a question over in the Q&A. So we wanted to hit that first before we went over to Ray. And so the question was about what folks who are vaccinated can do to help keep moving us forward as a campus. And I absolutely believe that it is all of our responsibility to keep this moving. And so if you are already vaccinated, number one, make sure you reported it to us and that you told us about it. If you're not comfortable uploading your form, we can just do a quick virtual meeting, you and health service. They can see your information and they can upload it. So you don't have to give us your card. If you're not okay with that, that's fine. And then the other thing you can do is to have conversations with your students, with your friends, with your brothers, with your teammates, with your colleagues about why you chose to get vaccinated, why that is important to you, and see if you can answer any of their questions or refer them to great, good scientific resources, to this recording of this webinar to hear Dr. Smith and his commentary to really help move the needle, to be an empowered bystander, to be a social influencer, to be part of moving us forward. And I absolutely think to the specific question that it's appropriate for faculty as well as staff, as well as coaches to have that conversation with students one-on-one. It's also a chance for us as a community to practice difficult dialogue and to be in that space where it's okay not to agree on something and to state your points and have that level of engagement. That's what Stetson is all about. And I sincerely hope that we can do that in a way that is respectful and smart and kind. So absolutely, we all have a place in having that conversation. Thank you for that question.
Lynn, that was beautifully stated. Thank you so very much. Really appreciate that. I'd now like to turn the screen over to Ray Nault, our Vice President for Enrollment. Ray, you've got some exciting news to share with our community.
I do. Thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Dr. Rolks. First thing I'll say is I'm vaccinated. And what you heard is what the campus community can get to if we can get to 70%. And you're not alone. We're encouraging it. I imagine that there's a number of people who have been vaccinated but haven't submitted their vaccinations yet. And I encourage you to continue doing it. If you want to learn more about the Safer Stetson and these kind of weekly opportunities that you're going to hear about, go to stetson.edu/safer. So what's an interesting thing we've tried to do is not only just incentivize the opportunities on campus, but we're rewarding students for the behavior of getting us back to normal. And what we have done is started doing weekly awards and weekly incentives. We've done $1,000 scholarship awards to weekly recipients who have submitted their vaccinations, and runner-ups are getting free parking. We've done it for graduate and law students as well, who are getting free parking at the DeLand campus. These are just some really small opportunities that we're actually building up to on July 30th, sorry. We have a number of winners already, and those winners who've already gotten the $1,000 scholarship, and just by the way, these students have authorized us to say, yes, they're part of the community. They want us to share their names. So Katie, Isabel, Jason, and Erwin have all received a $1,000 scholarship that's been applied to their financial aid award that's helping reducing their balance. A number of students have got the free parking pass, Stacy, Gabby, Sean, and Devin. These are awesome things that we're trying to celebrate. And that's what we do every day at Stetson, is celebrating small victories leading up to what greatness is going to be. This is all culminating to what we're actually going to be announcing on June 30th. Sorry, I said it again, July 30th at 2 p.m. live. And that is where we are announcing 2 students, one first time in college, as well as a continuing student, will receive a 1-year full tuition award that covers fall and spring semester. Runner-ups will get theme park tickets for 2 to go to Universal and Disney. And this is just our way of rewarding the students for participating in it. We want to get back to seeing you in person. We want to get back to the opportunities of engagement and campus vibrancy. And you've heard Larry talk about those great opportunities. What better way to do that than do it safe and ensure that our community is actually doing what we need to get back on track. So if you follow us at stetson.edu/safer, on July 30th at 2 p.m., we'll be doing this, I believe, on Facebook Live and making the announcement to our winners. I can't wait to actually make this announcement in the next couple of weeks. So any questions you have, feel free to call us. All you have to do is just submit your vaccination card to health services.
Ray, thank you very much. That is in fact exciting news. And as you can tell, we're trying to make this as easy as possible for members of our community to keep our community safe and well. If I look at my calendar correctly, today is July 15th. And if you would like to be part of that grand prize drawing, you have some time to do that and get yourself vaccinated and also get yourself reported to have been vaccinated. Thank you very much, Ray, for that. I'd like to have all of our panelists, if they will, please rejoin the screen. I think all this information has been very, very useful for our community. I myself have learned a tremendous amount from each of you today, and I want to thank you again for your important information. We do have a number of questions that were sent in advance, and I guess the first one I'd like to ask, and I think, Lynn, I'd like to direct it to you, is you mentioned earlier, we are a campus that does engage in difficult conversations. And so what advice do you have for someone that maybe is vaccinated that would like to be a leader, that would like to try to promote the wellness on our campus? What advice do you have for them? And then conversely, for those that may be skeptical about this vaccine, what advice do you have for them?
Sure. So I think for folks that want to be part of that communication of why they have gotten vaccinated, I would start from that framework. And I really like that Ray shared right off the bat his vaccination status. I think sharing with people why you got vaccinated and using the word I makes it personal, right? And it makes it about that individual human in front of you who you might have a relationship with, that you might have had good times with, who you respect, especially if they're a faculty or an advisor. And it takes it away from some of the larger, politicization of the conversation, right? And it makes it about your individual opinions, values, perspective, your read on the science. We have a lot of scientists in this community, right? And I think it's okay. I've heard some of our pre-health students just beautifully talk about their understanding of why the vaccine is so beneficial. And we need to hear more from them and those voices on campus. So I think listening is a huge part of any difficult dialogue, conversation, not interrupting, taking the time. This is not a quick combo, right? This is digging in a little bit. And I think if you're of the mindset where you're not made up yet, your mind is not made up about the vaccine, or you are feeling like you're not ready to get it, that it's okay to say what your reasons are. And I very much want to promote a community where you feel okay to explain what your hesitancies are and to feel safe on this campus. There was a question around that. We're the Safer Campus Task Force. We want you to feel safe. And so I hope that those things coming from us help you to feel like it's okay to have your reasons, and let's talk about them.
Lynn, thank you very much. And Dr. Smith, I hope you might be able to follow up a little bit with your scientific background for those that may be hesitant. You mentioned a little bit in your opening remarks that you can certainly understand as a practitioner, folks hear a little bit about the side effects, et cetera. What other medical advice do you have for those that may be on the fence about this?
Sure. I think so. Like Lynn just intoned, I think that it is to ask the questions. This is new technology. This is a new vaccine. It's a new virus, right? So I think it's that natural curiosity is fine. In fact, I think that's really healthy. Where I think we could all probably do a little bit better job is consider the source where you get some of that information. And so just because someone is on a digital platform, for instance, and they have thousands of followers, it doesn't really mean that they're applying any kind of scientific method to what they're espousing. And so I would encourage everybody to take that same curiosity that caused you to ask the question, hey, is this really safe? And apply that to the answer you got and say, well, why are you telling me that it's safe or that it's not safe? What study are you citing? And try to push a little bit on that, because what you will find, as I have found, is that when you really push on it, the really solid information that we have is that this vaccine is extremely safe. It's extremely effective. This virus is extremely unsafe, okay, and is something to be avoided at all costs. And so, be sure that you're really vetting that material that you get. Just because someone maybe wears a, I don't know, a white coat and they're on your TV screen or your computer screen doesn't really necessarily mean that they're citing the best science. They may be trying to sell you something. They may just be kind of putting their own fears out there to feel like they have more company. But take that same curiosity and apply it to what you're being told, because I think you'll come to the same conclusion that I did, that this is the right way to go, is to get this vaccine, which I have also taken and given to my family members.
I have to always remember to unclick my mute button. Let me also echo that. I too have received the vaccination, as have all my family members. I have a daughter that's in the healthcare field, and she was one of the first to receive it in New York City. We've all received different versions of the vaccine. We've got some J&Js, we've got some Moderna, and we've got some Pfizer. I myself was a Pfizer recipient. And so I'm very, very liberated to have had that vaccine, if I may say so personally. And that, I think, leads to my next question, which is, I think a number of parents have asked the question, a legitimate one, which is, if for a variety of reasons my child does not choose to get vaccinated, whether it be for a religious exemption or for other reasons, health reasons or otherwise, how do we make sure that that student is not sort of, how do I want to say, discriminated against is the term that was used by parents, that they will not be ostracized, et cetera. And let me just say this before I ask folks to answer that question, that we've already demonstrated as a community our ability to care for one another, right? We've been through this thing, right? This is not brand new for us. We learned a tremendous amount as a community through the early iterations of COVID-19. And frankly, I think a lot of our success in that regard was due to the kindness and compassion that people shared for one another, regardless of how they were feeling about this particular virus. So that's a little bit of a caveat, a little bit of an evangelicism from your president, but help allay the fears that if somehow I decide not to get a vaccine, that I will still have a positive Stetson University experience. Could I count on Larry and Lynn for that answer?
Sure. Well, I think one of the things that's important to know is when someone does submit their vaccination record, that goes into a pretty private and controlled system. And so it's not the case that the president of your fraternity would know who's vaccinated and who's not. They may be encouraging one another to become vaccinated so that, we can reach 70% that herd immunity level and reduce restrictions. And so they may be doing that, but there's that information is tightly controlled from the university standpoint, really to only in managing isolation and quarantine, contact tracing is really where we're using it, and for that reaching that herd immunity level, so we can gauge those things. And so, our student body, we have a very wide-ranging, diverse, eclectic student body, and so there's lots of different opinions. And so, would there be a debate in a residence hall room on a Thursday night about why people should or shouldn't get vaccinated? Probably. Absolutely. There's going to be those conversations in the dining commons, or just passing, or maybe in classrooms. And so, that will absolutely, as an academic community, ideas and truth and understanding what is best for our community, those are part of our values. And so those conversations will happen. And so I would encourage any student to, own their well thought out perspectives and be open to learn while they're here at Stetson. So.
Excellent. I'm particularly grateful, Larry, for the last part. I'm grateful for all of your commentary, particularly the last part, because it seems to me that as an educational community, that's precisely what we do, right? We have conversations about difficult topics, and that's how we learn. from one another. So I thank you for that commentary. Lynn, did you have any other insights you wanted to add on this topic?
Just a quick add, because I really love what Larry said there, but I want to highlight that there are some institutions that actually are having different policies for students that are vaccinated and students that are not vaccinated. And while we could see some pros and cons to that, that's not what we're doing at this time, because we don't want people to feel shamed or unsafe, as was the question. And so while we will continue to encourage facial coverings for folks who are not vaccinated, there is no repercussion. There's nobody going around making sure that folks who are not vaccinated have their facial covering on. We're not requiring badges or bracelets or anything of that sort that would identify someone as being different because they're not vaccinated.
That's great, Lynn. And it reminds me a little bit of something Dr. Smith said earlier, which is throughout the last academic year, we focused on those other mitigants, right, that we had at our disposal pre-vaccine, which was washing our hands, watching our distance, wearing our masks, and watching our crowd size. And those are also proven mitigants for this virus. So let's keep those in mind too as we continue to push our vaccination goals. So thank you for that. Ray, I'll turn to you for the next question, which is there's a question logistically. If I'm the winner and I already paid all my bill, how does that work?
It's a good question. In fact, since the bill was actually due today. If you paid your bill in full, you get a nice big fat refund for the difference of what the scholarship is and you've paid in excess. So, it will pay out in August. I think the disbursement date is August 23rd. So you would get a refund for, to cover whether that be room and board or if you paid it in completely full, a nice refund check in the fall. And then you don't have to pay anything for spring.
Excellent. There's also some questions about masks in classrooms. And I think that it should be noted, and Lynn, I'll turn to you for this, that there may be particular classrooms based on faculty members' discretion that may have some different rules as contrasted with the campus as a whole. Would you mind talking about that caveat?
Absolutely. This was something really clear to the members of Safer Stetson, that at the 70% rate, that we would still leave the option for individual faculty members to require masks, facial coverings in their classroom if they felt a need to do that. And so all the faculty member needs to do is just be clear with the expectation, just like any other classroom expectation, and make sure the students know that that's what's expected of them. And then the students would have to wear a facial covering in that classroom. And we really don't want to have to go there, but if we do, then it would be a community standards concern.
That's very helpful. And a couple other themes on the chat. And again, Lynn, I'm going to turn to you again. We are focusing a lot on keeping our community safe and well. Tell us a little bit about gateway testing. We deployed that, I think, very effectively last fall and last spring as students were re-entering our community. I know that's not a focus of our attention here today, but if you could tell us a little bit about the clearance process through gateway testing, which is yet another a strategy that we are deploying to keep our community healthy and safe.
Absolutely. So some more details on Gateway. So if you are a vaccinated employee, then you are exempt from the Gateway process. If you're an unvaccinated employee, then it will be expected that you get tested through the Gateway process. Those dates are the 15th through the 19th, and it's right here on campus in the Rinker Fieldhouse in the Hollis Center. And it's saliva-based testing, PCR. If you're a student, you will go through the Gateway clearance process, regardless of whether you're vaccinated or not, but you don't have to get tested if you're vaccinated. And the reason for that is because of what we just talked about. We're not trying to shame people. And so all students will have one of those bracelets, a little bracelet that they'll wear for the first couple of weeks of class. I don't have the date in front of me, actually, that you have to wear it until that will indicate that they were cleared. That's the language that we're using. That language also allows us to be in compliance with the state of Florida laws. And so if we have your vaccinated record, you don't need to spit in the little cup. You don't have to make sure you have enough saliva in there. You can just get your key if you're a residential student, and get your bracelet if you're anybody in the process. And we are starting signups for that. So if you're an early arrival, which is our athletes and some of our athletes and some of our student leaders, I got an email just today to sign up for one of those appointments. I know there was a question about if you can't make that appointment, just respond to the email and they'll help you figure it out. We'll absolutely help you figure it out. And for other folks, you'll start getting those emails next week. We have a lineup of who gets them first, so that people can sign up. If you're an incoming first-year student, it'll be during your focus orientation check-in. So that's the 13th and the 14th, and continuing students, it's the 15th through the 19th.
Great. And Lynn, one more quick follow-up, which is that I know it's anecdotal, but I think it helps illustrate when one does get vaccinated, sort of the liberation that occurs when you're vaccinated, because I think we had a positive case on campus, and then there was going to be some isolation that needed to take place. But it turns out that isolation wasn't necessary because the student had been vaccinated but hadn't yet submitted their vaccination record. Is that correct?
That is completely correct. So just happened, definitely a direct exposure. The student quickly told us that they had been vaccinated and submitted their card, and we were able to clear them. And I'm actually going to engage with that student and see what held them back from turning their card in beforehand, so we can try to get ahead of that for some folks. And then that student was able to be cleared right away. They're symptom free and feeling great.
That's terrific, Lynn. Thank you very much. And I do have one last question as we're running out of time. And Dr. Smith, I know you've had a long day, and I don't mean to put you on the spot and make your day any longer, but it's about generalized observations, which you shared a little bit earlier. But what are we learning about our current positivity rates in DeLand and in Volusia County and surrounding communities?
So increasing. The positivity rates have been ticking up. What we tend to look at is the canary in the coal mine for the hospital as we look at Centricare, okay, our urgent care positivity rates, because patients will go to urgent care typically to get tested, even from their primary care office, just because it's quick, and we can kind of tell sort of what's coming to the ER maybe a week or so later when a percentage of those patients get sicker. It's up in the double digits now. Okay, we're seeing 10, 12, 13% of the patients who come in with upper respiratory type infection symptoms, they're testing positive for COVID. What the CDC then does, I've gotten this question a good bit, is do you guys are you guys at Advent Health testing for the different variants? We're not, but what the CDC is doing is they are coming behind us, and they're taking all those. This is gross. They're going to take all those little positive swabs, okay, and they get those up to Atlanta, and they actually test those. And so what we're seeing is that now approximately 50 to 60% of the cases of positive COVID are Delta variant now. Let me tell you why that's pretty scary. I read an article a week ago that said 50%. And that article cited that 2 weeks before it was 30%. It's doubled in 3 weeks. Okay, so that tells you that this dominant strain is going to continue to be dominant. In fact, there are parts of Missouri I was just reading earlier today, they're up in the 70% range. So what we're seeing is that positivity rate is climbing. The proportion of initial Wuhan strain versus this Delta variant, that Delta variant's taking off. We're seeing a Gamma variant emerging as well. So not a lot of really positive news out there from the standpoint of the rise. The positive news is that, like you mentioned earlier, President Rolke, we have the mitigants. We know what to do. We have the playbook. So we've been through this before, and now we have widely available vaccines. So please, for the love of America, everybody go out and get your vaccine. It's so widely available, and within just a few days, you're already starting to enjoy some protection after you get that shot. So pretty please, everybody, again, help me help you by keeping you out of the hospital. I'd love to come see you at maybe a party at Stetson or at a big sporting event, but I don't want to see you here.
That is a perfect way for us to conclude this webinar today, Dr. Smith. Thank you. And we owe it to you as a medical provider and as our neighbor and as our friend to try to keep your job reasonable and to keep those hospital beds open and not filled. So thank you very much for your clear and firm messaging today. Very, very much appreciated. Stetson is in fact a place where learning and values meet. And I'd like to conclude today's webinar with something I articulated a lot throughout last year and will continue to do a lot this year, is that kindness not only matters, it enables us to listen, to engage with others unlike ourselves, and to consider paths that we can forge together to make our community, in fact, the world, a better place. Get vaccinated, stay safe, stay healthy, and we can't wait to see you here in the fall. Go Hatters.